Guys, I don't really know what happened, but welcome back. Sometimes that does that if I'm away from the camera for too long. But if you're just joining me, what I'm doing is I'm trimming out my tomato tower. So I guess we'll call this part two. If I'm not in the camera, sometimes I guess this is a new rule with YouTube. It will kind of automatically just kind of shut you down. So I'm trimming away and I'm just getting some really good tomatoes off of the tower. And opening up some room here to breathe. This is all leggy, so we're gonna say goodbye to this whole vine, gently just kind of pulling it a little bit. And there's two tomatoes. So this tower, just so that we're all on the same page again, it's like since December. And so this is my only tower, like I was saying in part one, that I haven't turned over. And it's just getting a little leggy. But when I am ready to call it quits on this, if you watch the clone version, I think it's called Cloning with Kevin, I will take clones from this one and I will root them and then replant this, and it will save me tons of time because the other tower is full of tomatoes, not ripe yet, but very, very, very close. So we're just getting in here and getting some of that dead branches that don't need to be there. I'm gonna just snip, but grab the tomato that's there. Just a lot of dead leaves. I mean, here's got some flowers, but it will be on the inside. So here's one that's real leggy that we'll cut and take the tomatoes. Hey, thanks for joining. This is part two. The internet went down, I guess, and don't know. So you can watch part one when it pops up in a few minutes. But I'm just pruning this out. This is my tower that I've had for 4 or 5 months, and it just needs some good airflow. Need to prune her back a little bit. But I'm taking and harvesting some of the tomatoes that are on this. Hey guys, hi. And just opening up so that basically what I'm doing is I'm telling the tower I want more fruit. So in order to do that, you have to kind of take some of those tomatoes off. You got to prune it back and let the flowers then come off of the new shoots. So that's what we're doing here. Getting in here, there's all kinds of dead little branches because there's no airflow, because it's overgrown. I was neglecting this tower. Hey guys. Oh, those are super cute. What was the question? I love plants too. So just kind of propping that up a little bit. All right, so this all looks pretty good up here. Another tomato on the floor. Splat. The green one. All right, so I'm going to rotate this a little bit so we can stay in front of the camera so we don't lose the internet like we did last time. Push her back just a smidge. All right, so this is what I'm talking about right here. So this, people would say, like in a forum, like, oh, my tomato plant, what's wrong? Nothing. It just got burnt from the light. So in order to deal with that, you just got to trim it back. Too thick. and the wands then can come down a little bit closer. Airflow can get in there. Got a lot of yellowing. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today and taking your time to see this. What's the easiest way? Okay, so let me just stop right here and answer that question. So if you're doing tomatoes right now, because all of the garden centers have tomato plants and you want to look for a small one. So if you really want to expedite this and you don't have something on your tower right now, you can go and find a cherry tomato like at Home Depot and Lowe's, a grocery, not a grocery store, well, maybe a grocery store, or like a open market. Take it, rinse all the soil off, every single bit. Just soak it in water and then go ahead and put it into a hydroponic system, and it will expedite the growth. Or if you already have something, you don't want to do that, you can take a cutting just like this. You want to find a sucker on the plant and literally just strip down, and you can actually plant this into rock wall, and within a week it will grow roots. It's called totopotency, and it will just get right into the rock wall, and you can put that right in your tower and you will have tomatoes in no time. That's what I did to the tower that's to my left. That's all new, not ripe yet, but definitely almost ready. So I got to get into here. There's a lot of tomatoes here that are just wreaking havoc, and they're all dead. So, ooh. Yeah, I'm glad I did this today. Glad I did this. And what's the difference between growing inside and outside? Well, I don't really have to deal with any of the bugs, which is a good thing. No bugs indoors. Now, squash bugs, but what you will have to deal with is powdery mildew, which gets in there. And I'm going to go ahead and sacrifice this. So this is kind of in the way in there. And I've got a bunch of green tomatoes. So I'm just going to pull them off, and I'll put them in a window and ripen them. But in this tower, it's just, this is what's on the inside that needs to come out. That's the problem. There's just not enough airflow, and I can't see the little baby tomatoes that are growing on the inside, and they end up getting moldy, and they will eventually find their way through the tower onto the floor, and they're wet, so that creates the powdery mildew as well. Okay, so here's another stem that it's a shame. Like, I should have been down here harvesting this, but I just, I didn't see it because it's so inside, and they're all just a little moldy. So we'll sacrifice a few to gain a lot down the road. And give the tower an opportunity to rejuvenate and start producing again, healthy. So this is why I wear gloves. And this, because it's so old, the branches have gotten so thick. Everything is kind of like intertwined and thick, which isn't a problem. We're going to get rid of this. Get in here. Away. And this is almost ready to be turned over. I can just tell by some of how it's growing. I've got some good tomatoes, some that are not. that are moldy. Can't eat those, but luckily I've got this other tower that's, almost ready to be ripe, and it's really, really, really healthy. So I'm, really grateful for that. So very grateful. And we got more tomatoes that are bad. So as you can see, I'm creating these massive holes for airflow. And that's the key to getting the branches to rejuvenate and grow some new stems. This tower is really, really old, and that's what I'm finding on the inside. If you guys have any questions, just go ahead. I can look periodically and see what's going on. So we've got half of it done. And I'm just going to kind of swivel just a little bit here. There we go. And the wands. Just very dense and lots of ingrown stuff back here. Getting there, but you can just see all the beautiful tomatoes that are right here. I'm going to come on this side a little bit so you guys can see over here. Yeah. And snip over here. It's just really full. Really, really full. So sometimes I just got to stand back and watch and look at it and go, where do I need to dive in and cut? It's like giving somebody a haircut. Like I don't want to trim too many tomatoes, but I need to do the airflow. And I can reach in there and just all these dead leaves that are surrounding some of the tomatoes, and that's what's making them rot. Like just little yellow tomatoes that, if I don't get to them, they're just going to rot. And it's, it doesn't seem like a lot, but look at, that's just a quarter of the tower. I want to leave as many as I possibly can on. And only pick them when I need them. For the longest time, I was really nervous to do this because I want fresh food all the time, but I know that I can quickly do cuttings and get this tower up and running in no time, if need be. And when I'm rotating between the ones that are to the right, it's just a lot back here. If there was ever smell-o-vision, the aroma that's in this room of tomatoes, whew, that's why I wear gloves. Okay. Again, time to stand back and just kind of take a look at it. A little leggy here. And we'll give this a little bit of a spin. Try to get those wands up a little bit. There we go. So this is a tomato tower. This is all cherry tomatoes that I've been growing since December. And this is the second time I've really had to kind of get in here and do this because it's just so dense on the inside. If you don't kind of trim it back, give it airflow, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a lot of rot on the inside and a lot of tomatoes. So in the morning, I'd come down, check on things, and I'd find little cherry tomatoes all over the floor that were like they're molding. So I knew it was time to kind of get in here and get some airflow. And also to tell the tower, like, give me more flowers because I don't need the foliage, but the foliage, because the nutrients and the pH are on point, it grows like a weed, which isn't a bad thing. But it's getting so big and so bushy that even with the wands out, I'm getting burn sections from the lights. So it's time to kind of take it back a little bit. So in other words, it's very healthy with the exception of the inside. It just needs to be cut back. And that's what we're doing today. The last time I had to do this, it was growing so tall, so I leveled it at the top, and I actually got rid of some of the stuff that I planted in the baby green section, and to kind of make it go out, and that's what happened. And so now I'm running into that issue where it's just too big, too bushy, and now we got to just trim it. We got to just tell it who's boss. And in the interim, I'm harvesting a few of these tomatoes. And they're super yummy. As you can see, this is like a whole branch. This is the whole branch. And there's like little tomatoes, ripe tomatoes, and some that are overripe. And when they're overripe, they split. And then that's when they get moldy. So there's just a lot of food here, which isn't a bad thing. I just need to get down here and do this a little bit more. So in the recent weeks, I've been focused on other towers and just turning over the room. And not paying enough attention other than just harvesting. So today, it's her turn. She needs some love. But if you're interested in this particular cherry, it does very well in towers. You can go to the website, towergardenmadeeasy.com, which is in my bio link, and go to my favorite seeds. And it's the little cherry tomato. It's got a little bee that says bestseller. It'll take you right to Amazon, and you can purchase it there. but it's the only seed that I know of that works really, really, really well, as you can see from the tower and how healthy it is. I will also too, if you're there and you're, not up on the nutrients and the pH, download the PDF form in the nutrient school area and get familiarized with proper pH. I usually keep these guys around 6 and the nutrients around 2.5. And that's why it looks so lush. And yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's super, super healthy, so it grows like a weed. And I got to get in here and spend some time kind of pruning it back a little bit. So someone mentioned earlier, and I'll mention it again, they'll come and they'll put a picture like this out on, kind of in a forum. They say, oh my God, what's wrong with my tomato plant? And it's nothing. This is proper nutrients and pH, but what happens is the wand is too close. And so because it's so bushy, the wand is, it needs to come in, but inevitably it grows so fast, especially at night, that it grows right up into the wand and then the wand kind of burns it. So you don't want that. So that's what was happening in certain sections. And you can see it because it's like a burn mark that goes all the way down. And that's how you know that it's nothing to do with, pH, has nothing to do with nutrients. It's just your tower's getting burnt. And that's an easy fix. But these branches are so old, and so mature that they're so heavy on the outside. But there's tons of fruit here, so I'm really trying not to disturb it too much. Inevitably, I'm going to have to at some point. And have to. I'm going to bring you guys a little closer, so you can just get a really good view of what's going on here. I'm going to turn it a little bit. Stay in here because there we go. See what I mean? See how heavy this is? And it's all one branch. And it's cascading over the trellis on each level. There's 3 different levels. People have asked, like, don't you, prune all the way back to the stem? Well, on towers, you can definitely do that, but I tend not to sometimes because it provides support because you're growing vertically versus in the soil. Even though I have the cage, it's still a little extra support. But on the inside, it's just very, very dead, like lots of dead leaves, which then, with no airflow, you're going to end up with this. So it looks like this. It's kind of powdery mildew, and it can wreak havoc on the tower. This tower's been going since December. So I've been harvesting probably since March. And I can continue to harvest it because there's so much fruit. But I started a second tower right here to the right. And these are all clones of this tower, of the main tower. So I'm really considering, as much as it breaks my heart, to really just kind of take this apart and clean it and give it a good scrub, even though there's so much fruit. I got to think about it. I'll think about it this week. What I would do, like I was just showing someone, is literally, that's all you do. You clip this off, and I would clip this a little bit of baby flowers right there. So I'd clip the flowers. You take that stalk, you cut it diagonal, you put it into rock wall, let it stay into your rock wall under a grow light on a warming mat. And within probably 3 to 5 days, you're going to have roots, and that rock wall can go right back into here. That's what I did to the tower that I just showed you. And I will have flowers probably within less than 2 weeks, in fruit within 3 weeks. If you want to go into my videos, there's a whole tomato series that I did And the new tower is I have clusters and clusters of the green, and they're just waiting to basically ripen. But that's basically the first video is called Cloning It with Kevin, and that's all I did. It's that simple. So I'm really considering just taking this all down, because again, this is all one step, and it's getting to the point where out here, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it, but because the vines are they're coming over the trellis. And what's going to happen, probably if not this month, but maybe next month, as it continues to grow, is the vines will get small hairline cracks and just give up. Either I can do it now, or I can do it later. But since this tower is almost ready, I probably will wait for a couple clusters to ripen so I can harvest off of that and then do this one. But inevitably, not concerned now that I know how to do it. The other way of doing it is, if you want to watch the video that I did called taking soil-based plants that you can find in your local nursery, you can rinse off the soil and literally just stick it into a rock wall, like, kind of, if you watch the video, I'll show you how to do it. And then you can put it right into the tower. That's another way of doing it. But this particular seed you can find on my website, which is in my bio, towergardeningmadeeasy.com. Go to my favorite seeds, and it's right there. And it takes you right to Amazon. And it's just it's a special cherry tomato. And I love it. I will never do another cherry tomato other than this one, because they're so sweet, so yummy. You can do salads, sauces, sandwiches, whatever you normally do with tomatoes, you can do with this. And you know that they're organic, they're grown without pesticides and herbicides, and they're just super healthy for you. So that's what I would do. But she's the only tower in this room so far that hasn't been turned over, and I'm really considering it, because I don't want to be struggling with the pH, which happens when the tower itself gets really old and dirty. You start growing some stuff in the base, in the reservoir, that's not very healthy. So like the backside, when I walk back here, there really doesn't need to be a whole lot of pruning back here, maybe a couple little sections. But other than that, this side looks pretty good. It was just that front side that was kind of bad. So, but the vines, like I said, they're just getting super drapey and super heavy. So it's just a matter of time before they start cracking. So, but I do have a few flowers that are over here. So we'll leave that one alone. But here's another big burn spot. But it really is a pretty tower. It's served me well. And again, I keep the pH at 6 and the nutrients about, I want to say, for seedlings, I would do probably maybe 1.8 for the nutrients, for the EC. And then as it matures to this level, I keep it in that between 2.5 to 3. And look at, there's fruit everywhere here. Everywhere. It's been feeding me for months. Let's see, what do we say? I clone my indoor tomato plants. Yeah. If you literally, I don't think I'll ever have to buy another seed as long as I have tomato plants, because literally you're just cutting it, slicing it, sticking it right in, and it's free money. It's free food. If you do that. Now, I haven't done that with the peppers. Maybe I'll give it a shot. But what I did do is, when you start peppers from seed, it takes forever. So I went to the nursery store on our island here, and I just got like a couple jalapenos. I want to try different varieties, but I know when you grow them from seed, it takes forever. So I decided, let me just rinse the soil off. And sure enough, I did. So earlier in the part 1, we got cut off and had to come back for a part 2 on the live. When you transfer a plant from soil to hydroponic, there will be a switchover. So the plant, it looks like it's dying, but it's not. So you pick off the leaves, and eventually some new leaves will shoot out, and you just go with it. So one of my soil-based is now, it has a flower on it. So you can do it, and it's not expensive, and it just cuts down that time exponentially. Um, so definitely, you definitely want to do that. Obviously certain things you need to do from seed, like some of the zucchinis and summer squash. And, if you're following me, please do. If you haven't subscribed, you should, because I'm about to, yeah, are they? I see, I don't know. So I'm just going to go on, rinsing soil and sticking them in the tower. But if you haven't followed me, make sure you follow me, because when I posted the watermelon tower, you no, everyone was like, you can't grow watermelon indoors. I'm like, I am. And I've got like 3 that I've built hammocks for. And so if someone was like, why don't you do pumpkins? And I'm like, I'm on it. I'm totally on it. So the seedlings will go into the pumpkin tower this week. I'll be doing a video for that as well. And yes, definitely. So make sure you subscribe and watch that. That'll be a lot of fun. And hopefully I don't fail. I don't think I will. Listen, if I can grow watermelons, I can grow pumpkins. It's actually kind of the first pumpkin video. If you want to watch it, is kind of it's kind of cute, because I go and I watch a few videos on big pumpkins and the do's and the don'ts. And really, honestly, it's the same thing as growing a squash. It really is. You really just have to have that plant to a maturity level of the leaves being so big. And once they're at a certain level, they're going to throw you off fruit, and male and female, and you're going to be able to pollinate it. And sure enough, you're going to have your pumpkin, your watermelon, your squash, whatever you're growing. You just need to make sure that you give it enough room. Basically, plant out the whole tower if you want, and then I call it survival of the fittest. Who's going to make it? And eventually some of the little plants, squash plants, don't make it, so I pull them out. So that's one less plant that's sucking nutrients. So just let the plants that are doing really well take off. That's right. Exactly. I had this one person, you can't grow watermelon. I'm like, dude, I am. Like, I have hammocks. It's a smaller version. It's just one of those sugar babies. But it's just, it's understanding, if you're growing indoors, it's self-pollination. And, honestly, I found this brush. It came from Walmart. It's just a very soft, it almost looks like a makeup brush. And I pretty much pollinate anything from a strawberry to, I don't have to do peppers, cucumbers, the summer squash, zucchini, and the melons, by scooping the pollen and going to the opposite plant. That's all it is. Just super, super soft, grabbing it, wrapping it, and then trying to close it. The cucumbers are easy. There's just a lot of them. You could spend an hour. Even my strawberries, it was tons and tons of flowers, but it was soft enough to grab it and then go ahead and do what you need to do. But yeah, I don't listen to the negative Nellies. The funny part is, Charlie, is one of the people that was the negative Nelly was an admin in a group, and I was like, hmm. So I waited a day or two. She's like, you can't grow summer squash. You can't grow zucchini. So then I throw the post up, and I'm like, I'm gonna harvest these today. So she kind of left it alone. What is she gonna do? It's a picture, and I'm literally but yeah, so I mean, you can grow anything. You just have to have the patience, and you need the proper guidance. One of the things when I started this whole business, believe it or not, it was based on a cucumber. I live in Newport, and in the off season, the grocery stores just don't bring in what they should. And so I went from grocery store to grocery store. I'm like, why can't I find a cucumber? And the guy's like, I don't know. So I came home, and that's how this whole thing started. And now look at it. I'm 9 towers deep, thinking about adding one more, and growing pumpkins, watermelon, summer squash, zucchinis, lettuce, celery, you name it. You can do it. But I hate it, like when these people get in the forums and they're just like, and you can't do that. Like, yes, you can. Just learn how to do it. And I watched a lot of videos, obviously, like you guys are watching me. And I will tell you this, as you go through this niche as like a tower gardener or growing indoors, you can do table setup or whatnot. Take things from people, like little things, over a course of time, and really vet out what they're saying. I really religiously watched this one creator And she's like, I fill up my, my reservoirs. And she was using Tower Garden um, things, towers. And so I really liked it. So I was, like I love the towers, and I bought one. And, I don't check my pH. I know my water, da, 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 da. And I was like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. So I started having problems, and I didn't know because I was so green. And I religiously trusted this person. And one of my towers was like going sideways. So that's when I was like diving into like what is pH? What is nutrients? How do I fix this problem? And so I could not find for the life of me a simple video to explain what it was in just basic terms. And I was so frustrated. I remember calling my mom one day and I was like, Mom, like, I don't get this. Like, everyone's trying to come from this scientific approach, and it's really not that difficult. So I was like, I'm going to make a video once I really, really, truly understand it, and then apply it to a tower to make sure that what I'm saying to people is the truth. So if you watch my video on the nutrients, you'll see my frustration level like on the floor. And I use one of those little kids' red wagons for a reason, because I wanted to keep it on such a level that people understand and can do it themselves. And by using a simple pH meter and a simple EC meter, some are combinations, some you just got to buy two, it makes the world of difference that you literally can top off your towers anytime you want. Like, say you're going on vacation, you just want to make sure that there's enough water so you can be gone for 3 or 4 days, versus letting it go to the bottom, which this is what that person told me to do. And that makes no sense, because on the very bottom is nothing but sludge. You don't want sludge going up into the blue tube onto the shower cap and then draining down onto the roots. You want perfect clean water with fresh nutrients and everything that it needs. So you can top off whenever you want. And then, then test the water and go, okay, I added, 5 gallons, 6 gallons, 7 gallons, and I don't even have to count anymore. I just try the pH, and then I try what the nutrients are, add very small amounts until I get to the desired amount that's on the paper and that PDF that's in my website, and it's free. And I highlighted the 2 columns. All you got to do is follow. It's wicked easy, and then your towers will look like this. And then your problem will be mine. It's too big, it's too thick, I need airflow. So with fans and windows and just, a pair of scissors, I'm getting in here and doing what I need to do to keep it going, versus you've got a tower that's completely brown, completely yellow, completely black, and you're completely in the dark as to what's going on. So I someone put a comment out there the other day, and honestly, it made my day. And it said, you're breaking all the rules. You're doing everything that people are afraid to do with indoor gardening. And I was like, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I feel like I filled a niche, a void here, that people are coming on here and they're like, let's do tower gardening. And it's like, yes, let's do it. But let's do it in a way that's not just to grow pretty things or to have houseplants, but grow a grocery store. So just like you, Charlie, growing tomatoes and constantly being able to harvest off of them, or pulling some celery to go upstairs to make a salad or soup or whatever you're going to do. That is the reason why I'm doing this. And the other thing too is, if you watch the news or you surf TikTok, you're going to see recalls. And frankly, I'm sick of it. If you watched my past podcast last week, that's right, challenged. And that's me. I'm an Aries. I love to live on the edge. And that's what I do. When someone told me you can't do this, I'm like, I'm going to do a pumpkin tower. And that's going to happen. I got it cleaned down. I'm just waiting for the seedlings. So I defy all odds. But what I'm saying is that the recalls are there. And in the front of my podcast this week, I go in, and I go in hard, going, our food industry is in such poor shape. I know it's, being changed slowly, but, how do we trust it? How do you go to the grocery store and buy a cucumber and know that that's not going to give you poisoning? I mean, we'll all do it and we get desperate, but, I feel like I turn on the news and it's like, it's this, it's that. It's eggs. Eggs go through the roof because now they got to kill all the chickens. And not just, I'm an animal lover. I can't even fathom that. But that's what's happening. And so if I could take a small portion out of, my grocery, budget, and grow my own, at least the majority of my produce. I really haven't bought anything lately. I really love good, clean proteins with nice salads. You know, sometimes I'll take a couple eggs and, you know, add a little bit of mustard, and I'll cut up some celery and add a little pickle to it, you know, yum, you know, with some grilled chicken. I just keep it really, really simple. And I love my lettuce. The lettuce is so good. You can put it in stir fries. And the celery, my husband says to me, he goes, I've never tasted celery like this. You know, people in the comments have said to me recently, the vegetables that we grow taste different. Well, yes. And you know why? Because they're fresh. And I've explained this in my podcast. So I used to be a high-end florist in Boston many years ago. And in the podcast, I explained the whole course of like where we'll just use a cucumber, for example. Say it's grown in South America. Well, okay, it's in the ground, it gets picked, it goes to their facility where they process it. And in that processing, they may wash it, then they coat it with wax. Okay, and that seals in their freshness, but that wax is toxic. Then it gets packaged, or you know, gets crated. Then it gets moved to an airport where then it gets stuck on a plane. Now, what happens when it gets on the plane? Where does it go? Does it get stuck on the, you know, the landing port? Then it goes into refrigeration. Then these companies like the big box stores, Costco, Walmart, Kroger, you know, all of these places, then they go and they send their people in the trucks to pick it up, and then they distribute it. So by the time it gets to you, guys, it's like, could be a month, 3 to 4 weeks before it lands in your cart, and then you pay for it. So it doesn't taste fresh. It's not like what we're growing. This is what it's supposed to taste like. You know, I don't know if you guys know, maybe some of you do. I'm a certified nutritionist. And, you know, I tell some of my nutrition clients that I still have left, of kind of guiding away from that, eat fresh, eat whole. You know, do your body good by giving it clean food. Don't eat processed food. Look at when you go into the grocery store and think about your mindset. And when people are starting out and they're like, I have to completely change the way they think. And honestly, you have to go into that store, you grab your cart, and think about being on an island. If you can't find what's on that island, and I'm not talking like an Americanized island, I'm talking there's nobody there but you and maybe a few other people that you know, your relatives. You have to forage, you have to fish, you have to kill your own food. Sorry. I mean, I am an animal lover, so like, breaks my heart. But fish, crab, okay, go into the forest and find some nuts and vegetables and things of that nature. And you learn to make your own food. There are no Oreos. There are no marshmallows. There are no s'mores on that island. And when you learn to eat like that and stay out of the middle, shop the aisles, the exterior portion of the store, stay away from the middle, your body will change just from that little tip alone. Whether you need to lose weight or gain weight or just get healthy, like your skin's going to change. People will say to you like, wow, what are you doing different? Just eating healthy. People are like, you know, another excuse I get, well, I can't grow my own vegetables. Why not? I'm not saying you need 9 towers, but why don't you go on your patio and put a few pots and just try some tomatoes? I mean, you could go to Home Goods right now, or Home Depot rather, and get, it's already planted for you, a tomato plant in a pot with a trellis. Put it on your patio, put it in your back and water it, nurture it. And within a few weeks or a few months, you're going to have your own tomatoes. Maybe you do it with cucumbers. Maybe you do a little raised bed where you put a few things in there. Start small and then grow from that. And by doing that, you're going to learn to be self-sufficient. And then you'll really like it because it's relaxing. And there's nothing better than coming down into my grow room and being so bright, and knowing like, wow, look at what happened last night. You know what kills me is my mushrooms. I'm like, slow down, because when I turn that light off at night, those guys go crazy. Like I literally just put shiitakes in there and I just started that whole tent back up. And it's now day 3. I'm almost ready to harvest the shiitake mushrooms. And I was like, dang, that was fast. So with the right conditions, the right water, the right humidity, your environment is going to give you food. It really, really is. And so this is just a product of that. And just doing a little bit of pruning today with you guys, I appreciate that. And again, thank you guys, for being here and being part of the community. And to my new dear friend who left that comment that told me that, I'm pioneering and I'm bringing things to to the gardening, indoor gardening on towers, whether they're indoors or outdoors, I should say, that you can do it. And don't think that, you have to spend, this is another tip for you too. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to find one of these towers. You could go right now to Facebook Marketplace in where you live, and I guarantee you're going to find one. It might be a little bit older and you might need to clean it, but that's okay. Take it to a power washer, put it in your dishwasher with some citric acid, clean it up, learn about it. Maybe you have to buy a new pump or a new cord or something with blue hose, or maybe you want to add to it like a baby green section. You can do that, and it's going to cost you half, a fraction of what they are as retail. And they're everywhere. I've bought one, two, I've bought three. I want to say three towers. Yeah, three towers that they were basically giving them away. And here's the crazy part. I live in Newport, and there's a woman, I have a storage bin, who was like in the next building over of the same storage bin that had a brand new home tower. She's like, I bought it thinking I was going to use it, and I never used it. And I just want to get rid of it. She sold it to me, lights, everything, brand new, never used, for like $200. I'm like, and it's growing squash. So I've picked so much arugula off the top, and I've gotten a lot of summer squash and zucchini off of it so far that it's paid for itself. And now whatever I put on that tower, I look at that and it's just free food, free food, free food. So you just go there and look at it. That's right. If you start small. Yeah, it does. So another thing that I talked about in not last week's podcast, but the podcast before, the week before, I talk about phases. So let me just get into that a real quick second. I thought this was going to be pruning day, but we're not. So you get a tower. You listen to me, you start watching my videos going, I'm going to do this. Yes, do it. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to master the three phases. Phase one, go find some lettuce seeds, maybe some collards, some herbs, some basil, maybe, things of that nature, and put that on your tower. It's very, very easy to grow. Okay. It's really not going to take a lot of skill. It will tolerate pretty much any nutrient, any pH. But you want to learn about that as you go through phase one. That tower looks amazing. Then what do? You go to phase two. Okay, you know what to do in phase one. So now we kind of lean that out a little bit. You say, I want to add a tomato plant, or I want to add a cucumber plant. Do it. That is phase two. Then I want you to do research on the cucumber and on the tomato and master that. It's very easy. Tomatoes, I go there with my little toothbrush. It's going to start to flower. I got this yucky old disposable, and I just tap the top of the flower. It's completely open, and what it does, you're going to see a little baby powder. Okay, I'll do one that's in the. So here's a tiny little flower right there, and I hit the top of it like a little bee, and it's going to release a fine mist of baby powder. And you just do that. You don't have to do it consistently, once or twice on each flower, and it's pollinated. Boom, done. Then your cucumbers, you have to hand pollinate those with, remember I said, soft brush. Just get in there, grab the pollen into the other, into where you can see the cucumber. So flower to the cucumber flower. That's phase two. You grow your first cucumber, your first little cluster of tomato flower or tomatoes. You're going to be like, dang, I'm good. And you should feel confident and that I did this and I am growing my own grocery store, because that's what I did. I ran into problems, there's no doubt, because I was listening to people and I was trying to find the education that I needed on the pH and on the nutrients, and nobody was doing it. They're creators, there's big creators. There's one guy, I really love him, but he's like a scientist. And for me, I'm just, a basic person that, and I'm slightly dyslexic. So what he was saying to me, it was like the Charlie Brown. I couldn't make heads or tails of what he was trying to do. And I just said, nope, not for me. And then I went to another big creator who did something on the nutrients and the pH. He was really good, but again, too scientific. So I started to figure it out. And I put the instruments on my towers with the knowledge that I grew. And then I felt confident to build my own video on the nutrients. So be sure to watch that. That's really, really important because it's really the only one out there that's super easy to follow. And that's why I'm sitting on the floor. All my stuff is in a red wagon because I wanted to bring it to school grade level so you guys don't feel overwhelmed. So then phase 3. You master your greens, you master your tomatoes and your cucumbers, you go to phase 3. Phase 3 is now your squash, your zucchini, your summer squash. You know, maybe you even want to try, there's one person out there, she's doing butternut. I'm like, dang, that's a good idea. But you got to start it now because it's 120 days from seed to harvest. So you got to start that one now. But so you've got to be ready for phase 3 if you're going to do it. So I might give that a whirl. So be ready in fall. That is phase 3. You got to understand the pollination. You got to understand your nutrients. You got to understand that those leaves got to get big. They got to get thorny. They got to just be ready to give you that fruit. And they will. And once you master that, you grow your first summer squash, your first zucchini, or whatever in that squash family, you're going to feel so empowered and so like, I can do this. I guarantee you will have more than one tower in your house. You'll find a way. You'll put it in a basement. You'll take a small room. The room that I'm in right now, this was supposed to be a guest suite. And we set it up with a bed, a couch, a TV for a company. And when I grew out of the other room, it was, you know, you'll see that one where I says, the video was, I think it was called, I got kicked out. I just outgrew it. I had 4 towers in there and I just got completely kicked out. So I came over here, we moved everything up to another room and I took over and I have no regrets because I love the space. I found a trellis on the street. Here's another negative, Ellie. If you go and you watch my my podcast from Wednesday, I tell you the story about the trellis that's well, I'll show you guys. Let me spin this around. The trellis that was on the street corner right there. It's now like where my cucumbers. Walked down the street with it, and I was telling the story on the podcast, and then I posted it somewhere. And of course, you get that one person, and she's like, "Ow, you're dumpster diving." LOL, just a joke. I'm like, no, it was on the street corner. It's free. It wasn't in a dumpster, and you know, yeah, I'm gonna wash it off, and it's just gonna, you know, it's a trellis. It's not like it's a sofa. I'm taking a trellis off the street that says free, has a sign that says free. So I took it, and now it's sitting in my grow room, and I'm going to put my cucumbers on it, and they're actually already trellising. But it's just so funny how people are like, ah, you dumpster diving. No, I'm really not. It's, you know, where I live, it's kind of a area where people love to garden on the exterior, but it was just funny that, you know, out of like 300 people are like, oh, congratulations, what a great find, blah, 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 blah. One person, dumpster diving, whatever. Don't listen to people. The takeaway here is do your own thing. Grow your own food, build your own grocery store, get out there, you know, do what I'm doing where my problem isn't about my pH, my nutrients, is my darn tower's growing so much that I really need to prune it back to the point where the lights don't burn. Okay, they're burning my leaves because I could only get them out so far. So, yes, exactly. So, yeah, you'll notice. I noticed that, believe it or not, on the watermelon tower, Charlie, that I had only one sex, and I was like, "What do I do?" You know, you just got to wait. You have to wait till you have both to come in, and um, then you start pollinating, and that's what I did. And if you go back and you watch that live, where I was the vines on. Let me put the stuff down. The vines on the on the watermelon. I'm not kidding. They're like this around. It's like something you find in the jungle that you'd be swinging on, and it's very 3D. So what I was happening is I was over there and I'm looking for female and male flowers. I pick up this jungle vine, and there it was. There was a watermelon that was about this big that's now sitting in a hammock. And if you watch the part 1 to this, where we lost the internet, I had to build. This is the second hammock that I had to do. and it's resting because I want to take the stress off of the vine, and it's doing just fine. And since then, I've got one on the bottom that I discovered, and then there's one that's on the time lapse that I'll show people eventually when I've got enough footage to it. But it just, yeah, you just have to wait to have both male and female to get in there. But again, just soft brush. That's all you need. Hey, Carol. So not at this time, unfortunately. My backyard is one big hole. We decided we moved into this house almost, it'll be a year in September. So my husband, when we moved from Massachusetts to here, he had one requirement. He said, I want either some type of a water view or a water feature. So I said, okay, so we don't really have a water view. We're many, many streets away from it, but we decided to put in a very, very small pool. And so my entire backyard is nothing but just a big dug hole with big piles of dirt. So my vision for that, when it does finish, and supposedly they're saying end of summer, is the pool. You kind of go out the back door, there's a pool, and then there's going to be like a little shed that we're calling like a pool house, and we're going to put electricity. So I'm going to put 2 towers on either side of the French doors of that shed, so that I can plug them in and just try the towers outside. So I don't know if we'll get there this year, but definitely next I want to do some raised beds. I've had like this whole vision board that I put together, but these guys are moving so slow that I don't think so. So that's why I'm kind of giving up on that and just focusing downstairs for right now. But in the past, I used to have at an older property a big, area. It was a big square. It was just obviously in the dirt, and I did anything from like corn, tomatoes, peppers. I had this whole side of a barn that I did with wisteria. I've always been, I've always loved gardening, and I don't think I'll ever give it up. If you've ever watched some of my podcasts, I talked recently about it's been in my blood since I was a kid. My mom took my brother and I out hiking one spring, and I was with, I don't know, somebody, and I started picking lady slippers out of the shadow of my mom. And I came over and I gave them to her. And she's like, oh my God. So in New Hampshire, it's the state flower, and it's like $100 fine for picking lady slippers. I didn't know. I was a kid. And then another instance, I was playing outside and I had wandered over to a neighbor's house. This is back years ago when you didn't have to watch your kids because I'm old. And I went over and I picked some tulips, and I came back and said, here, Mom. And she's like, where'd you get those? And I'm like, oh, neighbor Susie or whatever her name was. And she's like, oh my God. So, my mom's like, baking her a pie or something. I don't know. And, but I've always loved it. And I've kind of like in and out of my life. So I was a big florist in Boston, where I did some big hotels, their indoor stuff and their exterior. And then I also did like their holiday decorating. So, and then I had like some appliance stores where they had those indoor kitchens, beautiful, beautiful designer kitchens, salons, you name it. And then I got into big weddings. So I've always, when I worked on Albany Street in Boston, which was the big flower exchange, product came in there from all over the world. And in the middle of the winter, like we had really odd hours. Our hours were like, we'd be there at like 4:30 and we'd work till noon. You roll in, you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And I remember I just talked about the whole process of like the distribution, like a cucumber where it comes in. So we were the distribution wholesaler for flowers. So that's how I know that the industry, like for produce, works the same way. And, the drivers would go to the airport, they would pick up the boxes, they'd come back, we'd process them. And, I was able to, see product from all over the world. I mean, stuff that, like peonies, we'll take peonies as an example. They're really, really pretty. But so on the other side of the world, when it's winter here in New England or on the East Coast, peonies are coming in from New Zealand, from Australia or wherever. And you're just like, oh, it's freezing outside and you're working in coolers, but this product comes in, you're just like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Calla lilies, things that you don't see around here. Or the best was like the flowering branches. So we're in the dead of winter. like it's January, it's February, we're rolling into like, what do they call it? Chinese New Year. And they would get branches from somewhere, for that. And they would put them all over the stalls. Like, so the inside of Albany Street where I worked was like a football field. And there were like these mini stalls that go all the way around. And so the branches they would put, and they would put these bags over them and, throw some heat on them to get them to bloom. So you go outside and it's winter, dark, cold. You come inside and it's just like spring and summer. Oh, it was magical. I hated the hours. And honestly, there wasn't a lot of women that worked in there. I was probably one of a handful, which was very odd. But given the conditions, it was cold and you were working in coolers, and it was a tough environment. But I learned so much. I learned so much about the product. And then I took that knowledge and I became a florist, and working in the hotels. The other thing I'm really proud of too is I started a flower shop within a big hospital out in the burbs of Boston. There was like a little closet with a sink, if you will, and we put a cooler in there. And so what this did was it drove about $100,000 worth of income into the hospital to help. And I got to work with product. I used to be able to, drive from my house to the market to buy flowers, come in, and I get to work with it all day and sell it, and make money for the hospital and to help. And you see these people coming in, they're having babies, they stop by and they get like a little bouquet, and it was really, really fun. But I think I left there and with really good expectations of like they're going to continue it, and they did. They actually grew it a little bit. But I wanted to go on my own, and that's when I got into the hotels and the wedding. That was kind of like my stepping stone out of Albany Street to the hospital, opened that, and then I went on my own. So are you doing it in a tower, Carol? Or is this going to be soil? Let me know that question. So yeah, I just love this. I thought about the tower that I cleaned out, the bean tower yesterday. I was saying this earlier, that I was harvesting kind of like the last bits off of the bean tower yesterday, and I thought by really kind of getting some airflow and I'd start to see more flowers. But I just think beans, they throw you what they're going to throw you, and then that's kind of it. You got to turn it over. So yesterday, impromptu, I was down here for 6 hours working, and I just decided I'm taking it apart. I'm going to throw in the dishwasher. I'm going to clean it, and I'm going to just leave it clean for a minute. I don't know what I'm going to plant. So if you guys have any ideas, let me know. I don't really want to do beans, a tower. Okay. Yeah, I would, but I'll double check that for you. Will you email me at the contact button in my website? Just remind me for the indoor. I know that some people have said that they're a little bit different on the outdoors. Is it going to be in the shade or direct sun? That's another thing, because then we gotta talk about temperature. So let me know. I'll just say this to the community. So if you're going to do a tower outdoors and it's going to be like in that direct blazing sun, you got to remember that your tower itself cannot sit on, like say a patio decking. If it's stone, if it's wood, I think it'll be okay. But you definitely want to have it on a dolly or raised up, so that the heat that is heating up that stone or whatever the surface is on. Okay, so it is going to be okay. Direct sun, yes. That becomes kind of like putting a pan on a stove. So you're just heating that water from the bottom. So, okay. So yeah. We're going to have to talk about that. So you definitely want to raise it up to keep it on the cooler side. Now the water temperature, you probably want to get a thermometer, one of those floatable ones. Just go to like any fish store. And I want to say the temperature is no more than like, I think 75. So if I think you said you're in, I want to say an M state. I don't want to say it. You probably will be okay unless it gets super, 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 super hot. What you're going to want to do is fill up some Poland Spring bottles, like the little ones, put them in your freezer. And then late morning, when it starts to get super, super warm, you're going to want to slide that into the water hole to get the temperature of the water down. So I've had a few people from Florida ask me how to do that. And that's the trick. People are like, can you get a water cooler, like an AC type of thing? I'm like, yeah, but they're like, $1,000. So that's the trick. If you just rotate those water bottles from the freezer into like probably two on a flex, maybe one on a home, into that water slot to keep the water kind of going down, then you should be okay. No. All right. Yeah. So just you want to get a temperature. So Carol, you know, between the time you ask the question that's coming through, let's do this. Like reach to the contact on my oh, New Hampshire. Oh, okay, different Carol. How do we get a hold of each other? Can you email me at towergardeningmadeeasy@gmail.com? And then we can go through the specifics, because then I can tell you exactly what you should do. You're in New Hampshire, I'm in Rhode Island, so we're about the same temperature, and that way I can kind of keep a message we talked. Okay, I can kind of keep. Don't put your address here. So go to my website, towergardeningmadeeasy.com. Click on contact. That's going to bring you right to my email, and then we can go through there. So we just kind of keep your profile, private, okay? And then I can walk you through the steps of what you need to do to keep it safe. But for the majority of the people out there, don't put it on cement, don't put it on stone, don't put it on concrete. Raise it up. I want to say the temperature. If you go back in the podcast, I talk about this. I want to say either episode 8 or episode 9 is where I talk about temperature. And really it's just keeping that water on the cool. Oh, all right. I thought you were in one of those M states. Okay, so then I have your email. We should touch base. It really is just cycling, making sure that the water stays on the cooler side, because what happens when the water gets too warm is you end up frying the roots. And you could probably go a little, the pH should stay the same, but I would say the nutrients, you could probably bring it down just a little bit. Is this the tower that we just did the other day? So let me know. But that's really the only secret to the outside. So my little shed pool house is going to have an overhang. So that's where the 2 towers are going to be. So I'm wondering, because my backyard is southern exposure, whether or not we'll get sun, like on it, or the awning will cover it just enough. It'll get the indirect from the sides. So yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. It's getting a little late here in Newport. I want to go enjoy a little bit of the sun. I hear we're supposed to get more rain over the next couple of days, but Carol, you and I will talk, I promise, later this afternoon, and we'll figure out where your tower should go. And I just want to make sure the most important thing is you got to just make sure it's raised, okay? It just can't sit on the cement. And if you're also too, here's another little tip for you guys. If you're going to put your towers outside and it's not a flat level surface, make sure that you level it somehow, because what happens is, here's the top of the shower cap right here. Your water, if it's like this, it's going to find balance, and you're going to have leaks on this side, and this side's not going to get enough. So make sure that your towers are balanced. Okay. All right. Let's connect in a little bit through an email so that it's faster. And we can go from there, but it definitely will help you. No worries. I can't wait. I'm glad you found me today, because I was in here pruning this guy. It's just so thick. Oh my gosh. I have so many tomatoes, like on the inside, they keep falling. So I'm going to end this here. I'm going to go spend some time with my family today. Thank you guys so much for joining. And Carol, I promise we will connect, okay? So have a lovely afternoon, and thank you so much for joining me. And I apologize for the part 2 of this, because we lost internet, or I'm not quite sure. Maybe YouTube got mad at me. I have no idea. So we'll see you soon. Thank you.